What if the fake cheese everyone mocked became the first thing they missed after leaving America? European visitors arrive ready to laugh at that bright orange bowl, convinced it represents everything they were warned about. Then one bite changes the room. Why does a dish that looks so wrong taste so comforting? And how many American foods have been condemned by headlines before anyone had the courage to taste them? The orange plot twist picture. An American table during the 2026 World Cup. European. Jerseys, cold drinks sweating in summer heat, and one bright orange bowl sitting in the middle like it knows a secret. Before the first fork moves, the verdict often arrives because the color seems too bright, the sauce too creamy, and processed starts hovering over dinner like an uninvited referee. Then someone tastes it, and the argument begins packing its suitcase. That reaction says more about America's reputation than it does about pasta. European visitors often arrive after headlines, viral clips, and television jokes reduce American food to giant portions, wrappers, and ingredients nobody can pronounce. In Paris, cheese may appear after dinner with bread and careful pacing. Around Parma, it can represent craft, region, and generations of discipline. In Britain, a bubbling cauliflower cheese or a mature cheddar carries its own familiar comfort. Those traditions deserve respect and shape expectations because in that familiar European frame, cheese should look serious, restrained, and proudly connected to place. American mac and cheese simply refuses to wear a formal tie. It arrives warm, generous, and ready to please with sauce wrapped around every elbow of pasta like a soft blanket tucked into every corner. The appeal is immediate because the dish does not ask anyone to study it. Nobody needs to identify a grassy finish, discuss aging caves, or nod thoughtfully while pretending to understand the tasting notes. The job is simpler. Make the table go quiet for 30 seconds. That simplicity can be mistaken for a lack of quality, especially from a distance. Yet across cities such as Atlanta, Dallas, and Kansas City, mac and cheese is not one fixed recipe hiding in a blue box. It may be baked under a golden crust, sharpened with cheddar, softened with Monterey Jack, smoked beside barbecue, or served thick enough to hold a spoon upright like an American flagpole. Each version proves the same point. Convenience is only one chapter in the story. What surprises visitors is how quickly suspicion turns into ownership. One bite becomes another, and soon the person who questioned the color is protecting the final spoonful like it contains the last seat at a championship game. That is the quiet genius of American comfort food. It wins people over before they have time to rewrite their opinions. That bowl reveals something deeply American. Tradition can loosen its collar, invite everyone over, and become delicious without asking anybody for cultural permission. The media version of America often feels loud, divided, and artificial. The America people meet around an actual table can feel generous, funny, inventive, and almost impossible to leave. Mac and cheese captures that difference perfectly, looking unusual to outsiders, tasting familiar within seconds, and somehow turning criticism into craving. By the time the bowl is empty, nobody is debating whether it belongs in a French cheese shop, because that was never the goal. The real question is whether anyone can return home without thinking about one more serving. The breakfast ambush. A waffle has no business sharing a plate with fried chicken, at least according to nearly every European breakfast table ever assembled. In Paris, a morning meal might revolve around a croissant, butter, jam, and coffee strong enough to restart a stalled conversation. In Berlin, bread rolls, cheese, cold cuts, and boiled eggs keep things orderly. Even in Brussels, where waffles are practically local royalty, nobody normally expects one to arrive beneath a piece of crispy chicken wearing maple syrup like a glossy winter coat. Then America places both on the same plate, and somehow the confusion disappears before the second bite. Chicken and waffles works because it creates a rhythm the mouth keeps wanting to repeat. The crust brings salt, spice, and a dry crunch. The waffle follows with soft warmth and gentle sweetness. Syrup slips into the tiny squares, then reaches the chicken, where sweet and savory stop arguing and begin behaving like longtime neighbors at a 4th of July cookout. Every bite changes slightly depending on how much syrup, crust, butter, or waffle reaches the fork, which prevents the dish from becoming predictable. That variation is the real trap. Food researchers have long observed that combinations of sugar, fat, salt, and contrasting textures can increase palatability because the brain receives several rewarding sensations at once. Chicken and waffles does this without looking as though it studied for the exam. It simply arrives with the confidence of a pickup truck parked beside a luxury sedan, knowing perfectly well that both vehicles will reach the restaurant. America's love of chicken also gives the pairing a strong home field advantage. USDA food availability data have placed annual chicken supply at roughly 100 pounds per person in recent years, showing how deeply the meat is woven into everyday American eating. Yet the dish never feels like an exercise in statistics. It feels like somebody looked at breakfast, looked at dinner, and decided the clock had been given too much authority. That freedom can be startling to visitors from places where meals follow clearer lanes. A waffle in Liège is usually enjoyed as a sweet snack. Fried chicken in London belongs more naturally to lunch, dinner, or a late-night stop. In the American South, however, tradition is less concerned with keeping foods in separate filing cabinets. If two flavors belong together, they are allowed to meet, even when etiquette raises an eyebrow. This is one reason American food is so often underestimated from overseas. Outsiders sometimes see excess where Americans see hospitality, or randomness where there's actually a sharp understanding of pleasure. Chicken and waffles is not careless cooking. The balance matters. The chicken must stay crisp, the waffle cannot collapse under the syrup, and the sweetness should support the seasoning rather than bury it. When that balance is right, the plate becomes dangerously easy to love. Visitors may begin by treating it as a novelty, the sort of thing ordered for a photograph and a story back home. 10 minutes later, the camera is forgotten, the syrup bottle has moved closer, and somebody is negotiating for the last piece with the seriousness of an NFL contract. That is America at its most deliciously persuasive. It does not lecture anyone about why the combination should work. It simply serves the plate hot, lets curiosity take the first bite, and allows appetite to handle the rest. The lunchbox scandal. At first glance, peanut butter and jelly looks like America put dessert between two slices of bread and sent it to school without supervision. The peanut butter is thick, the jelly is bright, and the whole sandwich seems far too sweet to be taken seriously by anyone raised on ham, cheese, or buttered bread. Then the first bite changes the mood completely. The surprise comes from the balance. Peanut butter brings roasted flavor, salt, and a rich texture that sticks to the roof of the mouth just long enough to make the jelly feel even brighter. The jelly adds sweetness and acidity, while the bread keeps everything soft and familiar. Nothing is complicated, yet every part has a job. It is the kind of sandwich that looks almost childish until the flavors begin working together with the efficiency of a NASCAR pit crew. That contrast explains why many European visitors find it strange at first. In France, a tartine with butter and jam usually keeps sweetness simple and light. In Britain, jam on toast belongs comfortably at breakfast, while peanut butter may appear on its own. In the Netherlands, chocolate sprinkles on bread are completely normal, which proves Europe is hardly afraid of sweet sandwiches, but peanut butter and fruit jam together still feels distinctly American. The difference is cultural more than culinary. American food has always been comfortable mixing categories that other countries keep separate. Breakfast can taste like dessert, dinner can include something sweet, and a sandwich can be salty, creamy, fruity, and filling at the same time. Peanut butter and jelly fits perfectly into a culture built around school lunches, road trips, baseball practice, and busy families who need food that travels well and does not require a plate, a knife, or a committee meeting. According to the National Peanut Board, the average American eats roughly 3 pounds of peanut butter each year. That number makes more sense once you understand how deeply this sandwich is tied to childhood. For many Americans, PB&J is less like a recipe and more like an old family photograph. It carries memories of lunchboxes, field trips, kitchen counters, and parents making something quick before everyone rushed out the door. That emotional connection is part of the appeal, but the flavor still has to earn its place. The sandwich succeeds because each bite delivers several sensations at once: sweetness from the jelly, salt from the peanut butter, softness from the bread, and a roasted depth that keeps the whole thing from tasting flat. It is simple enough for a child and satisfying enough for an adult who swore they had outgrown it 10 years ago. For World Cup visitors discovering everyday America beyond stadiums and headlines, PB&J can become one of those small surprises that says more than a grand speech ever could. The country they were told was artificial suddenly offers something deeply personal, practical, and comforting. By the end, the strangest part is no longer the combination itself. The real mystery is how two ingredients this ordinary managed to become one of America's most unforgettable tastes. The wing trap. The first warning is not the sauce or the smell. It is the mountain of napkins placed beside the basket. American buffalo wings arrive with the quiet confidence of a food that already knows nobody will leave with clean fingers. They are glossy, bright red, slightly chaotic, and served in a pile that looks less like a careful appetizer than a delicious emergency meeting. For many European visitors, chicken usually arrives with clearer manners. In Vienna, a schnitzel is flattened, breaded, and given enough plate space to maintain its dignity. In London, pub chicken may be served with chips and cutlery nearby, even when nobody actually uses the knife. Buffalo wings follow a different rulebook because America has turned eating with your hands into a social event where sauce on the cheek is not a failure, but proof of participation. The addictive part comes from a remarkably clever sequence. Crisp skin provides the first crackle, hot sauce brings vinegar and heat, Butter rounds the sharp edges, and blue cheese dressing cools everything just enough to encourage another wing. Celery waits nearby like the responsible friend who volunteered to drive everyone home, although it rarely receives equal attention. The mouth keeps moving between fire, salt, fat, crunch, and relief, which makes stopping feel strangely unnatural. That rhythm explains why buffalo wings became far more than a regional specialty from Western New York. The National Chicken Council estimated that Americans consumed about 1.47 billion wings during Super Bowl weekend in 2024. Laid end to end, that would be enough poultry to make any European city council request a traffic study. More importantly, the number reveals how completely this messy little dish has entered American life. Wings belong to sports bars, backyard gatherings, family takeout nights, college towns, and Sunday afternoons when the television is loud enough to make the neighbors follow the score. They are not designed for quiet elegance because their purpose is participation. Everyone reaches toward the same basket, argues about the hottest sauce, loses track of how many they have eaten, and eventually discovers that the last wing has become a matter of constitutional importance. That communal spirit feels especially American. In Barcelona, tapas create conversation through many small shared plates, while buffalo wings create it through one basket and several increasingly confident sauce choices. The idea is different, but the pleasure of eating together is instantly recognizable. America simply adds more napkins and allows the table to become louder. Visitors who once associated American food with careless excess often discover something more thoughtful inside this apparent chaos. Proper wings require balance because too much sauce destroys the crispness, too little butter leaves the heat harsh, and weak seasoning turns the whole experience into expensive poultry-wearing red paint. When prepared well, every element pushes the eater forward without overwhelming the next bite. Perhaps that is why buffalo wings become so difficult to forget after a World Cup trip. They capture the side of America that television rarely explains properly. Informal, generous, competitive, welcoming, and completely unbothered by a little mess. Nobody needs perfect table manners when the basket arrives, because the only real mistake is pretending you do not want another one. One More S'more America has a peculiar way of handing people dessert in kit form, giving them a stick, a fire, 3 ingredients, and just enough responsibility to make the evening memorable. A s'more does not arrive polished beneath glass like a Paris pastry, or plated with the quiet precision of a Viennese cafe. It begins with a marshmallow hovering over flames while everyone nearby suddenly develops strong opinions about what golden brown should mean. That is where the charm starts, because the dessert is partly food and partly harmless competition. The marshmallow can blister, lean sideways, or catch fire with the confidence of a 4th of July sparkler, while the chocolate waits between graham crackers like it has seen this drama many times before. When everything finally comes together, the result is warm, sticky, crunchy, and slightly unruly, which makes eating one feel less like finishing dessert and more like earning it. European sweets often celebrate mastery before they reach the table. In Paris, a millefeuille depends on carefully arranged layers. In Vienna, a slice of Sachertorte arrives already dressed for the occasion. In Switzerland, chocolate is admired for its smooth texture and precise craftsmanship. The American campfire takes another route. It turns dessert into a group activity, lets everyone build their own version, and treats a little melted chocolate on the fingers as part of the admission price. The idea has been part of American outdoor culture for nearly a century. One of the earliest widely cited printed recipes appeared in the 1927 Girl Scout guide, Tramping and Trailing with the Girl Scouts, where it was called Some More. That name explains the entire business better than any food scientist could, because the recipe was practically warning future generations that one serving would rarely settle the matter. Its pull comes from contrast rather than complexity. The cracker snaps, the marshmallow stretches, and the chocolate softens without disappearing completely. Toasting adds a faint bitterness around the sugary center, while the graham cracker keeps the sweetness from turning into a syrupy landslide. Every bite contains enough texture changes to keep the brain interested, although the hands usually require a cleanup plan immediately afterward. For World Cup visitors meeting America beyond stadium gates, s'mores offer a revealing surprise. The country often portrayed from abroad as rushed and overly commercial suddenly invites everyone to sit around a fire, pass ingredients down the line, and laugh when somebody's marshmallow becomes a tiny meteor. Nothing about that moment feels artificial, because the pleasure comes from participation, patience, and shared imperfection. That may be the real reason this simple dessert becomes unforgettable. America does not merely serve sweetness, it creates an excuse for people to stay outside a little longer, tell another story, and reach for one more cracker. By the time the fire settles into glowing embers, the visitors who once questioned the strange sandwich are usually checking whether enough marshmallows remain for another round. Gravy before noon. There is a moment in every first encounter with biscuits and gravy when the clock seems to object. Gravy at 8 in the morning sounds, to many Europeans, like somebody moved Sunday dinner into breakfast and forgot to notify the rest of the continent. Yet that first spoonful explains why Americans never needed permission from the clock in the first place. In Britain, gravy usually belongs beside roast beef, potatoes, and Yorkshire pudding. In Paris, breakfast is more likely to be buttery, crisp, and lightly sweet, while a German morning table may lean savory through bread, cheese, cold cuts, or eggs. The American South takes a bolder route, split a hot biscuit, cover it with peppered sausage gravy, and serve comfort before the day has had a chance to become difficult. The addictive quality comes from softness, meeting richness. A good biscuit breaks into warm layers instead of crumbling into dry dust, while the gravy carries browned sausage, milk, black pepper, and enough salt to wake up every bland corner. The biscuit absorbs the sauce slowly like a porch swing taking in afternoon sun, yet it still keeps enough structure to avoid becoming paste. That balance matters because the pleasure is not just flavor. It is the feeling of something warm, filling, and dependable arriving all at once. This dish also reveals a side of America that overseas coverage often misses. American food is regularly reduced to excess, but biscuits and gravy grew from thrift, skill, and the need to feed working people well. Flour, fat, milk, and sausage drippings were ordinary ingredients, yet Southern cooks turned them into a breakfast sturdy enough for farm work, factory shifts, or a long day on the road. The genius was never luxury. It was making modest ingredients feel generous. The scale of its popularity is not imaginary. Cracker Barrel has said its restaurants serve more than 200 million biscuits in a typical year. That figure does not prove every biscuit ends up under gravy, but it shows how deeply this style of bread remains woven into American eating. 200 million biscuits would form the kind of breakfast line that could make airport security look pleasantly efficient. What wins over visitors is the way the dish changes the meaning of heavy. At first, the plate may look too substantial for morning, especially to someone used to coffee and a pastry. After tasting it, the same weight begins to feel reassuring rather than excessive. The pepper cuts through the cream, the sausage adds depth, and the biscuit turns the whole thing into a meal that stays with you longer than a delicate breakfast ever could. During a World Cup trip, that can become a surprisingly emotional discovery. The America seen through headlines may appear loud and artificial, but the America found in a roadside diner feels warm, practical, and deeply human. A plate of biscuits and gravy does not try to impress with elegance. It offers care in the most American way possible. Hot, plentiful, and ready before you even knew you needed it. The brisket miracle. 12 hours before anyone takes a bite, Texas brisket has already begun winning the argument. While much of the world treats speed as the proof of modern cooking, American barbecue calmly places a stubborn piece of beef inside a smoker, closes the lid, and gives time permission to perform the heavy lifting. To unfamiliar eyes, the finished brisket can look almost overdone. Its dark bark resembles the outer wall of something that survived re-entry from space, while the pink smoke ring may appear suspiciously bright beneath the surface. Then the knife passes through with barely any resistance, the slices bend without falling apart, and every previous concern suddenly needs a quieter tone of voice. The secret lies in choosing a cut that was never designed to be tender. Brisket comes from the heavily worked chest muscles of the animal, where connective tissue makes the raw meat naturally firm. American pitmasters usually cook it slowly at roughly 225 to 275 degrees Fahrenheit for many hours, allowing collagen to soften into gelatin while smoke, salt, rendered fat, and heat build flavor layer by layer. The process turns patience into an ingredient, which may be the most American form of stubborn optimism ever placed on butcher paper. That approach differs sharply from several respected European beef traditions. In Vienna, Tafelspitz becomes tender by simmering gently in broth, producing clean flavors and a softer, more delicate character. French pot-au-feu also uses long cooking, although the meat shares its stage with vegetables and aromatic broth. Central Texas barbecue removes the pot, keeps the fire, and lets smoke write the entire introduction. The addictive quality comes from controlled contrast rather than heavy seasoning. The bark offers peppery crunch, the center remains moist, and the fat melts across the tongue with enough richness to make sauce feel optional. Each slice carries a slightly different balance of smoke, salt, lean meat, and softened fat, which keeps the next bite from becoming a copy of the last one. Good brisket behaves like a great country song because the structure seems simple until somebody tries to reproduce it badly. This also explains why the dish creates such powerful loyalty. Brisket cannot be rushed, corrected at the final minute, or rescued with decorative parsley. A pitmaster may spend 10 or 12 hours tending heat, managing airflow, wrapping the meat, and waiting through the temperature stall when progress appears to stop completely. That invisible labor gives the finished plate a sense of generosity that no factory shortcut can imitate. For World Cup visitors who arrived expecting American food to be fast, artificial, and careless, brisket delivers a wonderfully inconvenient correction. Here's a dish built on patience, regional knowledge, fire management, and respect for an unfashionable cut of meat. It proves that American cooking can be bold without becoming crude, generous without becoming thoughtless, and deeply traditional without needing a silver serving tray. By the final slice, the dark exterior no longer looks burned because it looks earned. The smoke has settled into the meat, the hours have become flavor, and a cut once considered difficult has turned into something people cross state lines to eat. That may be the most convincing thing about American barbecue. It takes what looks unpromising, gives it time, and sends it back to the table as a national treasure. America's food is often judged from a distance through headlines, stereotypes, and photographs that cannot carry aroma, warmth, or memory. Yet one honest bite can undo years of assumptions. From mac and cheese to brisket, these dishes reveal a country that turns simplicity into comfort and generosity into tradition. Which American food changed your mind after the first taste? Share your story below and subscribe to the channel for more surprising encounters with the real America waiting beyond the headlines.